Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Fall NDE World Language Guest Speaker Series. This is co-sponsored by NYLA, Nebraska Department of Education, and CLTA, SIG K-12 group. Welcome, everyone. So today we have the honor to invite three guest speakers to talk with us, and let's welcome Dorann Avey, Sergio Perez, and Chrystal. Welcome. Good morning.
Hello there.
Okay, before they get started, we are going to introduce you that we are going to have more really interesting and informational guest speaker series later. So please be aware of those upcoming sessions. So the first one will be on September 30th. It is from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Central Time and 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is about brain breaks in the world language classroom. It sounds to be a really interesting and engaging topic. So we look forward to seeing you there. And let's see. Hold on. And that's it. So let's get started with our talk today. Are we going to get started with?
Yes.
Okay. So are we going to get started with Dorann?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's introduce ourselves. Dorann, please.
Yep, I'm Dorann Avey. I am the Digital Learning Director at the Nebraska Department of Education, and one of the projects that I work on is Open Education Resources, or OER.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hello there. I'm Sergio Perez. I am the Education Advisor for the Education Office of the Embassy of Spain here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm basically a teacher of English back at home. Here I'm giving just support to the teaching of the Spanish.
Oh, thank you very much. And we look forward to your sharing of the resources.
And I'm Chrystal. I'm the World Language Specialist at the Nebraska Department of Education. I would really like to thank Dorann to help us get started with OER World Language Hub. Thanks a lot. So this is how we try to make all the resources available for world language teachers.
Thank you very much, Chrystal.
Yeah, so we have a few objectives today. First, we want to talk a little bit about Nebraska World Language Standards. It is similar to, actful and accessible standards, but a little bit different. Also, we want to talk about NDE World Language resources to support standards implementation. And then we have Dorann to introduce OER basics in the navigation. So as we see that we have Nebraska standards have 5C as well. So we have communication, culture, connection, communities, and cognition. I'm sorry. So can any of us identify the difference between Nebraska standards and our national standards, actual standards?
I think there is no cognition in the Expo standards. I think that's a difference, right?
Yes, that's true. So in actful, thank you very much, Le. In actful and accessible standards, we have comparison instead of cognition. So that's something different.
And I'm sure a lot of teachers like me are very interested in knowing, what's the difference between those two.
Yeah, and actually, actful and accessible standards has our cognition, focus as well, because we all know about can-do statement descriptors, right? So that's actually, in Nebraska standards, we take it out and make it like one of the 5 C's. So if you are in Nebraska, or even if you're not in Nebraska, this is really helpful because it's also based on actable proficiency level. Here is our, if you click on the flyer, you can see the short version of Nebraska Standards. The whole document is right here. So let's see. So the structure of Nebraska World Language Standards is also similar to actable standards. So WL means what language? 1 means strand 1. So what is a strand? These are our strands: communication, culture, connection, communities, and cognition. These are the strands. And standard. Standard is actual statement under the strand. Indicator is for different levels, we can see. So strand is communication. Standard, student exchange information through interaction and negotiation of meaning. Indicator. So participate in basic exchanges with isolated high frequency words, fragmented responses or phrases. So this is actually, what students need to do novice low level. So we can see strand 1, communication. Standard 1 is interpersonal, actually. We can see indicator is novice low. So this is, I think the structure is pretty clear, right? So strands means the category, and standards is actual requirement, and indicators, descriptions of different level, like indicator 1, 2, 3, and we have proficiency level A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, L. Okay, so we know the structure of the standards. It's also, it is also the same with actual standards, it's similar. So what is cognition? Cognition refers to metacognition in the standards. It's not cognition. In Nebraska standards is actually metacognition. This is a definition from Webster dictionary. Is awareness or analysis of one's own learning or thinking process. So let's make it easier. So thinking about thinking. Cognition in Nebraska standards means thinking about thinking. That means actually we need to restructure the standards. Restructure the standards. We have 5 C's. It's like this in the corner, right corner. But if we restructure it like this, cognition, and then it helps teachers and students to better understand the standards. When I was a teacher, I really think, standards are always in very complicated languages, hard to understand. That's why I try to make this simple for everybody and accessible for everybody. So cognition, thinking about thinking, that means we want students to think about their learning process, thinking a process when they are learning about communication. We want students to think about their learning process when they learn about culture. And we want students to think about their learning when they make connections. And also we want students to thinking about their learning process when they are trying to make connections between what they learned and how they can use the knowledge in their community. So cognition strengths is kind of challenging because we do not have, examples to follow. So I would like to invite all of you to see what's actually cognition strength actually mean. Student explain what they know. That means student need to review and reflect on what they have learned. That is thinking about thinking, thinking about learning, and are able to monitor their own learning journey. That means they need to know where they're going. If it's a journey, where they're going, and have to know about how they are doing towards the goal. And they want to be, if they are monitoring their own process, that means learning process, that means they should have self-autonomy. With support from their teachers, that means we as teachers, we need to provide guidance and support. So why should we include a cognition? Research has shown that cognition activities has a positive impact of student self-efficacy, which means students believe in what they can do. Intrinsic motivation and also student perceived task value, capacity of autonomy, and teacher rapport. They will have better relationship with the teachers, and also it will positively impact on learning outcomes. These are the references. Sergio.
Yep. Let me share the screen. Okay. I'm coming, I'm sorry.
No worries.
And here we are. Okay.
Okay.
So, and thank you very much. So, why is it so important regarding motivation? I mean, why is it having a motivated learner in the classroom so critical in the process of learning languages in our case, but in any case, it would be for any kind of learning. I mean, one of the important concepts I would like to comment today is the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. I mean, this is a continuum, of course. I mean, we're not talking about any student would fall into one single label here. We could have students growing from a motivated to fully motivated learner within the process of a year, for instance, of a school year. But in any case, motivation is critical for engagement to happen, and engagement is again a critical factor within the process of learning. So motivation and engagement go together. So for instance, we could have motivated students with exams that would be externally motivated students. Okay, we would have an external stimulus in this case, motivating students who want to get higher marks. Okay, we would also have recognition or rewards that we give to the students that are not so towards externally motivation stimuli, but still they are external. So our objective is to go from the external to the internally motivated students as much as we can. Okay. So one of the critical factors to generate intrinsic motivation within the context of our classroom is autonomy. We need to give some, let's say, control to the learner if we want some intrinsic motivated engagement, so to speak, to happen in the context of our classroom. So, and what is autonomy? This is specifically a definition of autonomy in the context of a second or foreign language learning context. Okay, so feeling free and volitional in one's actions, that's critical for somebody to feel autonomous, to feel they are free in the process, or at least to a certain extent, that they are free in the process of learning. Okay, so volition, the choice, the capacity the
8点多
capacity
了
to， choose
我给你切
among
断之后喝完再
different
走啊。
options. Okay, so making decisions. Of course, this would mean that there are a number of decisions we need to make on the side of the teacher. For instance, what kind of methodology we need to be using, okay? And for instance, project-based learning or a phenomenon-based learning or service learning would probably set up an ecology, an environment where learners can be more motivated, okay? Or using some techniques like gamification, our students would be, and they would feel there is some kind of focus on their decisions, on their individual decisions that may generate some levels of autonomy. And so we would be moving towards the intrinsic motivation we desire to generate. However, learners are not experts, okay? Learners, what Chrystal would just say, and the thing about the metacognitive skill. I mean, we're not trained. I mean, we're not born with that skill. I mean, thinking about how we think, that's something we learn how to do throughout our learning process, academic learning process normally. So we need to train our students how to do that, okay? And we need, of course, to scaffold the different steps they need to give to become fully autonomous, motivated learner, okay? So, and how do we do that? One of the key tools that we have is checklists, okay? The can-do statements Chrystal was just mentioning. They would absolutely give us a certain number of indications for the teacher and the learner on where we're going, okay? Okay, so, but it gives us the capacity, it gives the teacher the capacity to connect whatever we're doing in class. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of emerging pedagogies, those methodologies that deal with emergent learning that happens in class, okay? How do we connect whatever that happens in class that was not predicted? How do you deal with that regarding curriculum, regarding assessment? Can-do statements can help us with that checklists that we've been building in the last couple of months. They would help you with that, okay? And they will provide simple language. They will provide a number of, let's say, simple sentences for the learner to understand what we mean by the standard, which is kind of more technical wording. In the case of the can-dos, it's a simple wording that will make us, that will let the learner understand exactly where they are and where they're going. So if you see, for instance, here an example of intermediate low for communication, which is basically the simplest probably strand, initiate, sustain, and conclude exchanges about familiar topics in structured settings and formats. Teacher would understand that, okay, but probably, I don't know, a fifth grader or a sixth grader would not understand that that easy. So if we word that with a participating conversation, so on familiar topics using simple sentences, he or she will understand what they mean, what we want them to do at a certain moment in time. Okay, so that's a key feature of checklists the way we're seeing it today. So what is the power of checklists? Why are the checklists such a wonderful tool for learning? We can set up, even explicitly or implicitly, we can set up a learning portfolio. It will give us the chance of giving the learner a guide for learning. Okay, we will tell them in advance with the checklists what we want them to do in the future. Okay, so we as teachers know exactly where we're going, but at the same time, the students know where they're going. But it will be a biography of learning. Okay, it will definitely give them some kind of a record of the things they are doing at the moment and they have been doing for the last learning situation. Okay, whatever days they have advanced, and but also it will be a record of the past. Okay, it will be what they learned, and that would also give them a perspective on whatever they have done. So it will give a starting point to whatever they will do in the future. Okay, and if you use it together with some dossier that will give them instances of what they've done, it would be a wonderful resource. Sorry. Okay, Chrystal. Sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, I did.
Sorry.
Okay, so can-do statement and standards. Sergio just talked about the power of can-do statement and checklist. So that's why we want to use it to make a student-friendly version of standards. As I mentioned previously, as teachers, sometimes the standards is hard to implement and hard to understand. As students, for students, they need to know what they need to achieve. What are the expectations for them? So that's why in actually last year and this year, we brought two groups of teachers to work on can-do statement. We are developing self-assessment document for students for each level. So that's what we're doing. We're creating student version of standards, actually, in their format of can-do statement. So challenging with the standards, as I mentioned, is like the language and the interpretation. So Sergio has just provided a suggested solution. That's why we are doing it. So course level self-assessment, if you click the link, you can find the document in OER. Thanks to Dorann again, and it's she that made the work possible. If you click it, you can see what language self-assessment checklist. This is novice med. We can see this is a checklist format. If you click on view resources, these are all available. These are OER, that means it's available. Everybody can use it. If you click download, it will download for you, but let's see it first. So you will see a checklist like this. We have the strand, we have the standard right here, the first standards, and this is novice low. So we can see the actual standards. Students exchange information through interaction and negotiation of meaning. And this is an indicator for novice low. Participate in basic exchange in structured context about family and familiar and predictable topics using high frequency vocabulary and phrasing. This is hard to understand for students. That's why we make it like student-friendly versions of this indicator for novice low student. I can ask simple questions. I can answer simple questions. As teachers, if we want to use the can-do statement, we can just add the topic or the context of the unit. For example, my first unit is family. So I can ask simple questions about family members. I can answer simple questions about family members or things like that. So this is student friendly. Why we make it like a self-assessment format? Because we want students to evaluate their own learning. So that's how we start to model cognition activities, monitor of their own learning. So at the beginning of the semester, I would highly recommend asking students to go through the checklist. And after when in the middle of the semester, maybe around midterm, ask them to evaluate themselves again using the same checklist. At the end of their semester, ask them to do it again. So in that way, they can see their progress. So let's go back to our, this is a course level. So we have it in novice low, novice mid, novice high, intermediate low, intermediate high, mid, intermediate high. And in the year, in late June this year, in June this year, we created can-do statement, self-assessment in can-do format for advanced level. So all these documents are created based on Nebraska standards is actually similar to Actable standards. These are all available in OER. That means it's free to everybody. So we have two formats, as we mentioned. We have checklist format and a circle format. So the one Sergio just showed is intermediate, mid, and circle format. A lot of students do not like the table is like a long list. It's just front and back. 5 strands. And the circle format is more student friendly because they can just circle the things they cannot do. And in the beginning, in the middle of the semester, they can circle more things they can do. And at the end of the semester, they can circle even more things. This way, of course, we want to recommend to use different color so that they can see the progress. And the link to the document is at the bottom of the slide. And also, then we have student-friendly format, student version of the standards. Also, we want to make sure all the materials we use are actually of high quality. So that's what HQIM means. HQIM means high quality instructional material. We want to use high quality instructional material so that our students will be better supported. So that's why in Nebraska we have word language HQIM review rubric. This helps teacher to pick their high quality materials for instructional purpose. And it's a long list. If, for daily use, if you want to pick things for, your class for tomorrow or class for this week, we have a short version as well. So if you click it, it will bring up the actual document I need to fix this one. And this one as well. I have the link later. Okay. So if you click the link, self-assessment, HQIM rubric, and we also created curriculum map for level 1. So these are already available, and these were created by the 2 groups of teachers in 2022 and 2023. We worked together and created these materials and put in OER for all word language teachers. So these are our rubric. It's right here. We have the long version and short version. So the long version is also based on Nebraska standards. And we have, these are really good document, good work, I have to say. OER Word Language Hub Development Cohort 1 created this, and I have a group of 16 teachers as, teachers and experts to review it. So if we click it, we can see actually we have our, this is the short version. So it's one page and help teachers to identify, to evaluate materials they have. We know for world language teachers, a lot of times we don't have, ready to use textbooks or curriculum. So we have to develop our own curriculum and, find our own materials. So alignment to standards, alignment to research-based practice and accessibility and support. This really help teachers to identify good materials. And we also have the long version. And curriculum map, this is curriculum map for level 1 world language classroom. It's in English, so it can be adapted to any world language classroom for, German, Spanish, Chinese, whatever you're teaching. So we can see these, if you click it, you can open it. Okay, it gives us, okay, it looks like, oops, this. So we have topics for reference. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 unit. And we have can-do statement for each unit based on standards. And we also specify what standards have been addressed. Then we have communication in 3 modes and suggestions and ideas for teachers, when they are planning lessons or develop their curriculum. And we also have, sequencing resources and activities for reference. Also, we have culture and then connection, community, and cognition. So these are good resources. I hope it's helpful and it's, all teachers can access it. Oops, okay, let's go back. And this is the timeline for NDE World Language OER development. So in 2022, July, we have cohort 1. We developed self-assessment for novice and intermediate levels. In 2023, in May, we have HQIM rubrics reviewed and finalized. 2023 in June, we have cohort 2. We developed self-assessment for advanced level and curriculum map for level 1. And in next year, in May, we're going to have curriculum map review and finalized. And in June, we're going to have cohort 3 to develop a curriculum map for level 2. So if we are interested, so Dorann is going to share more about the OER and how to use it.
All right, thanks, Chrystal. So yeah, so we're gonna kind of get into the hub. There's the things that Chrystal shared with you are the things that Nebraska teachers have made, but I'm going to show you at the same time we're working in this space, many other states and countries are also working in the OER hub to make content that you can use in your classroom for teaching different languages. So the goal of this time is going to be to familiarize you a little bit more with the site so that you can use it on your own. And find other content besides the ones that we've linked in the slideshow so far, and help you use and interact with those materials. But before we get into that, Chrystal and I call that a rabbit hole. If you come to our summer training, we'll teach you all about how to use this hub and how to both find things, but also how to make your own things in that training. And it can be a place where you go in looking for one thing and an hour will pass and you will come out with many things. So before we jump into that space, I just want to tell you a little bit about what OER is so that you understand what you can do with the resources that we're sharing. So OER began in the United States in 2014 during the President Obama administration. It was a project that his his team led. And so we started to explore how we could create materials and create more equitable learning spaces for students. What materials you find there are things in the public domain, which just means those materials are old enough that the copyright has expired, or the person who wrote the item made a choice to give up their copyright privileges and just give it away to the public. So you can use it however you would like. Most of the materials that Chrystal's already shared with you and the materials I'm going to show you are not public domain, but they're actually items that the copyright holder has decided to share a particular, what we call an open license, that gives others the right to use, adapt, or redistribute their content without restrictions, which is kind of, it's copyright with permission, basically. I'm specifically saying to you, yes, I still own the copyright. These are my things, but I want you to have them. And if you can make them better by changing them or making them better for your students by adapting them to your own needs, I want you to do that. And so that's the things that we're going to find inside our hub. There are many benefits for the open education resource movement in our country. And it's why it's become so popular, and it's growing quickly across the country, not just in the K-12 space, but also in college, in the post-secondary space. There are a lot of materials and books that have been made that are open and that students can use at a free or low cost use. So some benefits: you get those high quality instructional materials that Chrystal was talking about, which means that all students, not just those in rich schools that have a lot of money to spend, but all students can gain access to good, high quality educational experiences. They also are more easily updated. So unlike the economics book that I had for years when I taught economics in Lincoln Public Schools, that book got to be 10, 12 years old. And a lot of the material inside of it was very dated. It was hard to help students engage with it because the time frame of the material was so old, and it didn't have new ideas and things that were currently happening to help engage students. So you can keep the materials more up to date more easily. The other thing is it empowers teachers to tailor their materials. They can change them. They know what students need more help with. They know what things students maybe have mastered and we can move past. And the teacher has control over those materials and can modify them as needed. Then the other thing is, because we're not buying outdated textbooks and keeping them for years and years, we can instead use our funds that we would have purchased expensive textbooks, and instead we can provide training to our teachers. We can do other things with those funds that can enhance or enrich the learning in other ways besides a book. When we're inside the hub and I show you these things, the licenses that are attached to them are going to tell you you're able to retain your own copies. You're able to reuse these things year after year and use them in a variety of ways. You can revise them, so feel free to modify them. You can also remix them, which means you can take the things you like from one of the materials and combine them with things that you like in other materials to make a more robust experience for your students. And then, of course, you can redistribute the content. Obviously, you have the ability to do that with your students, but you can also share it with your fellow teachers whom you might be working with. So that's another nice feature. When you're looking for Creative Commons licensing, you want to look for this symbol that's here on the right. This is a Creative Commons license indicator. This one here that you see on the left is the copyright indicator, which you may also see on the materials, because the person who decides to openly license does not lose their rights as the copyright holder. They still own the original copyright and the original materials themselves. And so they get to tell the person through this Creative Commons license how they can use it. And so let's take a look at what you might see on the licenses. So there are technically 6 Creative Commons licenses, all that provide different privileges. The ones towards the bottom here give the user the least amount of freedom with the materials. So I'll explain what that means. And then these materials at the top provide more freedom of what you can do. And then this one here, which has the star next to it, this is the one that we recommend Nebraska teachers use. It's based on information we receive from our attorneys in the state and those that we work with, but also provides some guidelines for Nebraska teachers that ties to their contracts that they have with their districts. So it's important to remember in Nebraska, we have teaching contracts, and as part of those teaching contracts, any material that a teacher makes while in a teaching contract is actually, the copyright is owned by the district. So the district gives the privilege of who can use it and who can have the materials. And this license here is the one that came recommended to us. So let's take a look at this and talk a little bit about what all of these symbols mean. So this is our Creative Commons logo. And so we know this is a Creative Commons license. And then these pictures here tell you what you can do with them. You'll notice that all of the 6 items have this, I always call it the men's room sign, because it looks like what you see on a men's room bathroom door. But what this symbol means in the license is that when you reuse the materials, you must give credit to the original author. So anytime you're using these materials, you should always, whether it's in a PowerPoint or on a worksheet, you should always cite and give credit to the provider, the person whom gave you the content. That's for all of the licenses. So be sure to always keep that credit available. This one with the $sign in the middle stands for no commercial use or non-commercial, which means that people can use your materials, but they cannot resell them or profit from using or charge others to use the materials. So that means that they are always going to be free to use and free to share. You just have to cite who it was, and that you don't have to worry about others making millions of dollars off work that you began and started if you were the copyright holder. Then the next thing is share alike, and it looks like this backwards arrow. And basically what that means is as the materials are moved forward, no matter how they're remixed, no matter how they're changed, this license must be attached to them so that all further users also know they cannot sell the content. They must always return credit to you as the original writer of the content. And so moving forward, this license will stay intact. Okay. Now, we've covered kind of all the symbols. The by means just to cite. The backwards arrow means that you have to share it in this same way as the content moves forward through time. And the dollar sign means that you cannot use the materials and charge for them in any way, shape, or form. The one we didn't look at, and the one that kind of takes away some of the freedom of things that we consider open, and so we don't consider these as much open, and so they are resources that have this equal sign on them. And this symbol stands for no derivatives. And the reason we don't call these open is because if you cannot remix them or change them, which is what the no derivatives marker means, you have to use them as they were originally created. Now, this does not mean that these are not good resources. Typically, we find this license being used by companies that are in the professional business of creating content, and they've put this no derivatives on because what they don't want is when you're citing it was made by them, somebody remixing it and it not upholding the same high quality that it needs to have their name on it. So that's really important to keep in mind, is that this might be something created by like Khan Academy or CK12 or some of those other really well-known materials makers where they want you to use it as it was written. And for it to be high quality, you need to use it with the fidelity, or it will lose some of the quality components. All right, at this point, I'm going to kind of pop out of the slides, but we did share the slides with you. If you jumped in late and need a copy of these slides, please let us know and we'll put the link in again. But I'm going to actually go to this site, and it is linked right here if you want to join me there. And I'm going to cover what's in the slides, but I'm going to do it within the actual site itself. So let me pop out there and change to the OER Commons site itself. So as I'm going here, I just want to check, are you able, you can just give me a thumbs up, are you able to see my OER Commons screen? Okay, just want to make sure you weren't still seeing the slides. Okay, perfect. So this is what OER Commons looks like. It's OER Commons. Oops, I didn't mean to click there. I'm going to go back here a second. This is what it looks like. And this is an international website. So you're going to find things in other languages that are in this site because other countries use it. You're going to find a variety of levels of learning. So pre-kindergarten, pre-K learning, all the way up through doctorate level materials reside inside here. So it's a very robust site, which is why I want to show you kind of how to use it. So the first thing that you have to do is create a free account. Now, everybody can have a free account. And to do that, you go over here and you register. Okay, part of that registration is that you need a valid email because it's going to send you to the site or to your email, a email that says, here's a link, please confirm you're a person and create a password. So that's how you will do that. You'll set up your account. You can see I'm logged into my account here, and I'll show you how you can get your picture up here and all of those things in a minute. But you'll want to create an account. Now, to explore the site today, you do not need to have an account. You can explore with me without an account, but there'll be certain things you cannot see that I'll be sharing on my screen. But for basic exploration, you truly do not need to create an account. The reason we recommend an account is because you wouldn't be able to save materials or create materials without an account. And Also, if you join us in the summer work, you would need an account so that we could add you to the Nebraska World Language group. So that might be a reason that you want to create one, but if you want to do that later, you are more than welcome to just follow along with me and come back to the site and do that later. The link is in the slides. Once you do come to the site, you'll see the logo up here. This logo is clickable. If you click it, it will always be up here on the left side. It will always bring you back to what we call the home page, so this main page. So if you get in really deep and you just want to come back out and do a new search, you would click this logo. Along the top here, we have several links that I want to kind of go through with you and let you know what you will find here. So under the Discover link, if you click on the little caret, they call this a little caret, you'll see there are 3 sublinks: resources, collections, and providers. Resources will just go into an alphabetical link where you can find things. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. It's different types of things. It could be a lesson plan, it could be a textbook, it could be a whole course. Collections are ones where a digital librarian has brought together similar resources and put them inside a collection, which is a little rectangular box. And I'll show you these in just a second as well. And all of the materials that are related are already curated in there for you. So a librarian has taken the time to put things together that might be useful because they're similar versus you having to search. Then down here, these are providers. These are professional nonprofits and paid companies who provide resources that are open for education. And you can find their content here: Code.org, Khan Academy, CK12, the Smithsonian. Many of our common providers already belong to this site and already have connected all of their resources to the site. So you don't have to go to their site each individually. You can just come here and find everything that they have published. So let's start looking at the resources. When you click on the resources link, it's going to show you things by subject area. So you can look. For the purposes of this, we are, world language teachers. You're going to find language under arts and humanities. There are over 7,000 items that are tagged in that way. Not all of them are world language, but many of them will be world language. So if you wanted to search through those, you could click on that link and it will pull them open for you. So that's something that you can do. You can also search by material type. So if you want a textbook, you can find world language textbooks that are already made and are in a digital format by looking. There's a better way to look than looking through the 4,500 different textbooks that are here. So I'll show you how you can more quickly find specific things, but you can actually search by what it is in the hub that you're looking for or want to take a look at. Here are the collections that I was explaining earlier. Again, they're grouped together. Here are NGSS. These are science materials. So there was a shift in science teaching a while back, and they use a different type of standard now. And these are the next generation science standards in GSS right here, and they're all collected. So if you taught science, that would be a great place to start looking. So you can start to find many. If I kept scrolling, this will just keep going and going. So I'm not going to, again, it's not the most efficient way to search, but it is one way you can search things. And then the last one here is providers. Providers is going to take you again to an alphabetical listing of the different folks who provide content by their name. And so if you know that the Arizona State University has materials, because you're a life sciences, all of their materials are right here, and you can just come and look for items by content. So Corel is a provider of a lot of world language materials, and they have materials inside here. And there are many. Boise State has, I'm trying to stay up at the top of the letter, alphabet here. Boise State has a lot of world language. I'm going to show you where those are in a little bit, so you don't have to, again, dig for them. But if you knew they had something, that would be a quick way to find it. This next area, hubs, this is a place where you're going to find the Nebraska materials Chrystal was showing you. In addition, if you go to look at all of the hubs, you're going to see many states have hubs already, as do many types of institutions already have hubs created here. And so you can look through their hub, which will have their materials. The nice thing about a hub is that you can put your standards inside of them so that materials can be marked with the standards that they teach to. So you can actually align content to Nebraska World Language Standards inside our hub. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to do that in the Colorado hub because they have their own standards and they align their content to their standards. This is Iowa's hub. We have a lot of our neighboring states are in here. So Colorado, Iowa, Missouri, many of our neighbors have hubs. And if you're looking for the Nebraska one, it is here. This is an alphabetical listing. So it is right here. Once you become a member of our hub by creating an account, by joining one of our groups, either through doing work with us in the summer, you can join the World Language group and then become a member of our hub, or just joining our OER group inside our hub. Then the nice thing is what it will do is it will store that as your hub here. And so you don't have to dig through all of these the next time you come. It will automatically be here and be ready for you to go straight into the materials Chrystal shared with you and to share things with other Nebraska teachers. In addition, there are groups, and we have groups inside our hub, and all hubs do have groups. You can join groups. I'll show you, I'm a member of many groups because I manage our OER hub, but you can join the World Language group and then it would appear on your list as one of the many things and groups that you belong to. So you can do that. And that's just, again, another way to quickly find the things that you wish to do. If you want to join a group, I'll show you how to do that once we get inside the Nebraska hub. You are also able to join groups of other states. Sometimes they're free and open, so you don't even need permission. You can just click on them and join. Sometimes you'll have to get permission, so you can click to join, and I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. And then you'll be granted permission by whoever is overseeing that group if they want to have you join in. It's important to note the thing about groups is groups typically are a place where we do work. So you do not need to be a member of any group in order to see published materials on the OER hub. You can see everything that is published. So you don't have to join a group. You don't have to join a hub. You can just go back to this main page and you can just search for what you want. You can choose an educational level. Maybe I want some high school things. Again, maybe I want language, so I want it to sort. But I can actually even just tell it, I want you to find me Spanish materials or Spanish culture or any of the searches that you want to look for. And you can be as specific as you like. And you can click search, and the hub will show you every single thing that has been published that relates to the word Spanish. And there are over 500 pieces of material. Some of these are full courses. So they're going to be very deep materials, very, very in-depth, and you're going to find a lot of things there. Sometimes it's just a short module. Sometimes it's a textbook. In this case, it's all of those things. But if you scroll through these, you'll find this one is just a small item. It's just a homework assignment. But it's made, and you could assign it to your students to use. And so you could go through and just take a look. Here's another homework assignment based on travel in the Spanish language. So you could search that way as well. Again, I just did that by going to the main page and typing in a search. And you can do that for anything when you're first getting started. At this time, I'm going to go into our hub and show you a little bit about how to navigate the Nebraska hub and show you how, if you want to become a member of the Nebraska hub, how you can join that. And I have it open here, so I'm going to just jump over rather than wait for it to load. Notice, because I'm a member, you can see the hub is right here. So now I have two links that will take me to home pages. Because I'm a member of the hub, I can click this at any time and it will take me back here. This is our Nebraska homepage. Or if I want to see all of the materials, not just the materials that we have put together, I can click on the larger group. Now, both sites are really good, but I want to encourage you to always start in the Nebraska hub for a couple of reasons. One, everything in the Nebraska hub has been vetted by a content specialist who teaches in Nebraska and knows our standards, and the items there are going to be aligned to Nebraska standards. So they're going to be your best high quality options if you're starting a search. So always start there. However, because we only do this work in the summer, only once a year, throughout the year, people are constantly adding new resources. And so it's really important. Sometimes if you're not finding what you need, maybe go ahead and search in the main hub and see if any new materials have been added that might meet your needs. So that way you don't have to create something new if it's already been made by someone else. So just a tip or a trick to help you find those high quality things right away. When you come to our hub, you're going to see we've divided it into our collections, which are the Nebraska instructional materials, some common OER collections that those digital librarians made that we brought in that we know align to Nebraska standards like CK12 and code.org. And then we have our Nebraska working groups, which is where Chrystal showed you a few links. Many of the materials reside there, but ultimately, all the things she showed you today will be in our Nebraska instructional materials. So I just want to show you where that is. You can click on this link and it'll jump you down the page, or you can manually scroll and you will find all of the world language content that we've been working on in the last 2 summers is inside here, inside the collection. And it also contains a few resources that Nebraska world language teachers vetted for us. In other words, we didn't make them, somebody else made them, but a Nebraska world language teacher went through and looked at them and saw that there were items that do align to our teaching standards in Nebraska. For example, this first one is an elementary Spanish assignment and textbook that somebody said, yes, these materials do have components that do align with Nebraska standards, so they would be useful in teaching a Spanish course. The next one is, again, one we didn't make this, the National Endowment for the Humanities did, but a teacher has looked at these materials and said, yes, we talk about the Chinese zodiac, and these materials would be helpful to a teacher who is teaching Chinese and using the Nebraska standards. And then you'll start to see some of the things that we've made So you can see that, oh, this one actually isn't from us. This one, it looks like ours because it's very basic, but this is another one where it's novice, low, mid. Somebody's already tagged that. And this is some Chinese materials that are appointments by phone. And as you keep scrolling, eventually you'll find the materials Chrystal talked about and shared, but you'll find many of the 80 items in here are going to be helpful to you as the teacher. So before we start going, we'll go back to our slides. That's a little bit about navigating. The last thing I want to show you is how to navigate your own materials. So once you create a free account and you have an account, you'll always, when you log in, you'll find your account over here. And it'll look like the top of that men's room sign, that just the head, just kind of generic. But if you want to add your picture, or you want to add and personalize your account, you just go here to profile information. And you're able to easily go ahead and add your name, where you're from, what you teach. I run the hub so that it puts everything on mine, but you just pick what you need, pick the subject area that you teach. In this About Me, we ask that you tell us like what district or school you belong to, especially because if we're trying to decide to add you to a Nebraska hub, we like to know that you're a Nebraska teacher. We don't invite a lot of teachers into our groups unless they're actually an endorsed Nebraska teacher. And then here's where you could add a picture so that you could change that generic one. Now, it doesn't have to be a real picture. You can use an emoji that's really popular with teachers. You can use, a picture of your pet if you prefer that. Just make sure it's a professional picture and not inappropriate. And then you can save this page and it will update, and your profile will be updated the next time that you click out of here. The other thing is, as you start to save items, what you're going to want to do is save things that you found. So if you're using materials with your classrooms, and I'll show you how to save them, you'll want to save them. But then the question we always get is, well, where did they go if I saved them? I know I saved them, but I don't know where they went. Well, they're always going to be over here where you log in your My Items. This is where everything that you save, every group that you join, or every hub that you join lives. So if you join things, you'll find them most easily right here under your login. So you can see I have 125 saved things. Many of them are things that I've helped others work on. So you can see the world language items that we did are in here. Why Are Flamingos Pink is a draft of something that I'm working on. So it's being edited most likely so it better matches to Nebraska needs for quality, or to match to a standard and align better to a standard. So I have it under draft. And so you'll find all of your things here. Now, rather than continually loading and loading, what we recommend is that you make folders so that you can organize your things by categories. And so as you work with people, you can just click here. You as a teacher of world language can specify language. You could specify by level, novice, mid, advanced, high, and you could start to break your content up so that it's easier to find exactly what you're looking for. And then within a folder, once you create one, you can make subfolders by units. You can make subfolders by language. You could make subfolders. This one again is by units. And so what you do to do that is you go into a folder. You'll see 3 dots right here. And you can click and say, I want to add a subfolder, and then that would be just a folder inside this main folder. You can also delete folders that you didn't end up using or that are not helpful to you. So I suggest that you create these folders before you do a lot of saving in here, because when you find materials that you like, so I'm just gonna go out to our Nebraska hub again, and I'm going to show you how to save something. But if you have your folder structure already created and made, it becomes really easy to save things and organize them as you go. If you save before you make folders, you can still move the items into the folders, but then you get a really long page that you have to kind of dig through, and that can be frustrating. So I suggest you make those folders first, and then let's say you find something in the World Languages Hub that you want to use and save a copy for yourself so you can more easily find it. So I don't want to have to dig through the 85 things in here. I know that I want to use this Animals of the Chinese Zodiac for my classroom. There's a description. I've read through it. I've opened it up and taken a look at it. And I know that the materials here are going to be helpful to my students. So I want to save this. How do I do that? Well, what you do is go back to this page and you'll see the save button here. And then you're going to see the My Items and the folders and the subfolders that you made. And you would just scroll to the one that you want. I don't have a Chinese subfolder, so I'm just going to put this in my world language folder. And you would just click it and you'll see, you'll get this green box that says, we saved this, it's in your world languages folder. And it will be there the next time I go into My Items. Wait a second for it to load up. There we go. And if I go to my world language folders now, I am going to see it's right here at the top. This is my most recent saved item. And so it's right here for me. So that is a little bit about how you save. So that's about all I'm going to give you about how to explore the hub. Again, you can make things like add your own OER, but I recommend you come to our summer training if you're interested in that, and we'll teach you how to do that another time, as it is in depth using the open author tool that they have in here. You can also, just so you know, create learning modules you can assign to students. I'll just show you what one looks like really quickly. But learning modules are helpful for some of that flipped learning classroom experience or blended learning classroom experience, where you might be creating a module and the students just do it. You can use it when you're absent and maybe the sub doesn't know your language. And so students might just work through a learning module, but you can create them for free in here. They can link to Google. They can link to your Canvas or Schoology learning management systems. There's all sorts of wonderful ways. I'm going to just go quickly since it's taking too long because I'm on Zoom. But here's one that I've made that is just an example. And I want to show you what that might look like as an experience that you create for the student. So I made this. This is about art. So an art teacher might be more likely to use this, but I want to just show you, you can make it, you can give it to your students as a link. Again, you can put it in Google Classroom, you can put it in your LMS, but I just want to show you what the student experience can be if you decide to learn to make these. Got to give it a second to load up. But what happens is I've created an experience that the students can go through all on their own without me. So this might be a homework assignment where I have students start to learn about Impressionist art and artists before they come to class and we do a lesson. So it starts out with this beautiful Impressionist picture that I've chosen. The student hits the next button. I give them some text and some reading. There's some vocabulary links here. If you you can see the little question mark. It's kind of hard to see on this screen with the gray background, but it will, if you hover on it, it will open up the definition of the vocabulary word that I've provided to the students as part of my creation. I tried to keep this short because I just use this as an example for people to kind of see what you can create. Then they can go to the next button, and I give them a chart. I say this chart tells you a little bit about some different artists. The students can click on it. I ask them to look at it and answer in their minds these 3 questions, but I also assign it to them, and the students would click on this, open it up, take a look at the chart. The chart's also on the assignment. And students can zoom this in if they need to so that they can see it and zoom it out, all that fun stuff. To answer my questions, turn this in, and I can check their progress, make sure that they did the learning module. I can give more text, but you can also link to videos. So this is a YouTube video. It's a short video that I would have students watch. It takes them through many of the different famous Impressionist artists. I tell them, while you're watching the video, please reflect on these things and know that you're going to have an assignment where you're going to have to pick one of the artists and do a little PowerPoint presentation for me. And in that presentation, here are the things. So this becomes a learning in and of itself that each student can progress through on their own, at their own pace, at their own time. You could do videos where people are speaking in the language you teach. You could ask questions of the students. You can have the check for monitoring. So even if you don't have your own learning management system, you can do quite a few things in addition to just taking things out of the OER Hub. So I just wanted you to be aware of this. This is a link to Quizzes, which is a popular website that we send students to. And I just designed this to be just sort of a fun review. They would go here, and then depending on how well they score in this quiz, it tells them, you know, that they're an art rock star. They really understand, or they just need to keep practicing. And it links directly out to my Quizzes account and opens up right in there. So just want you to know that that is available as part of the hub. So know that you can explore and learn more about this. And if you're interested, contact Chrystal and she can let you know about our summer work, and we can make sure that you know how to do these magnificent things. So with that, I'm going to go back to our slides and show you some things with our last 9 minutes that I think you should check out. Okay, and again, these are linked in the slides that we shared with you today, and you'll be able to find them there. Obviously, I want you to check out that world language collection that we've built. There are 80 items in there for multiple languages and good materials that have been vetted by your fellow colleagues in Nebraska, other world language teachers who have looked at those materials and decided they would be helpful. In addition, if you're not aware, the University of Kansas has a huge program of language study, and they produce many, many resources. So if you want to look, this links to our OER Commons Hub, and I already have it open here. Oops, I have to refresh though. And there are things in there that you can find, and they're in our hub as well. So I have linked all of that for you. And they have, for Spanish teachers, a course called Acceso. It's a free course. It's an entire Spanish course. It comes in multiple languages or levels of language. It's all Spanish. They have other languages too, but this is a popular one. It is open. You can sign up and get all of the teacher content, the student content, and many wonderful materials there. Another college that does a lot with languages is Boise State University. Again, I put links here. Their materials are in our hub. They do things with, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click off of that quite yet. They do things with both French, German, and Spanish. They also have a Chinese cultural website, which might be of help to your students, and in teaching those culture-related standards that Chrystal talked about earlier. So that's kind of a neat site. In general, if you just search, you'll find many Spanish full courses. And if you're fortunate enough to be at a district that has Canvas, they've already made entire Spanish courses that are done. And you could load these into your Canvas instance and teach an entire year's worth of Spanish and still edit it, still supplement it, still use it. But the whole thing is finished. You would just download it and put it inside. It's really a wonderful, and they have level 1, year 1 and year 2. So know that you can check those out. They're all ready for Canvas as well. There are some French materials on these sites, and there's one site that's a grammar game, so you could have students practice their French grammar using games on that site. There are 3 German full courses that you could also check out, in addition to the Let's Chat German course that Boise State, that I already showed you, provides, but they have many here. Then there are a couple of Chinese courses that are already made and available inside our hub. And again, this link will take you right to it, or you can search and practice the searching we showed you today. But you can open that up and go through and find out all about this free course and all of its materials and what it will teach and so on and so forth. So again, that's a rabbit hole. You're going to get in there and you're going to be there for an hour just digging through all of the stuff, but definitely worth your time to check out. And then just some other things that you might want to look for in our hub. Corel has all of theirs, and I know you're probably familiar with them. A lot of people don't know, but PBS actually has a wonderful library of resources for teaching, and they have cute little videos that remind me of, like, we used to have Mr. Rogers when I was a kid, and Captain Kangaroo and stuff, where they would do fun, cute little videos with puppets, but it uses basic language that new learners of Spanish and whatnot might be helpful. Now, it says this is for grades K through 5. However, if you've never learned Spanish, this would be for a 9th grader too, who's learning how to just start to introduce themselves and things like that. So those might be materials that you want to check out. And they have many, you saw all the languages there at the beginning, so feel free to check those out. And then the Center for Applied Second Language Studies also has some materials for world language teachers that you might want to spend some time taking a look at. Again, this Castles is kind of what we call it for short, but if you go there, their site is very robust and you'll find multiple languages there. And with that, one last resource with our 3 minutes, and then we can start our closing. This is a Google Doc that was created that finds things that are open resources outside of our hub. So this is what's in the hub, these things. But if you continue down, there are things called microsites. And so Michigan has a microsite instead of a hub. And so you can find their world language materials by using this link. Or there are all of these sites here that you might want to check out that have all sorts of world language or language teaching materials, and you can check all of these as well. So it's very robust. There is a lot out there, and they are all open and freely licensed and ready for you to use. And with that, I'll turn it back to Chrystal to close us out.
Thank you very much for attending our webinar. This is a lot of information, and I hope at least you get some resources and hope you understand what OER is, and hopefully you are ready to at least to explore a little bit. Do you have any questions?
I did
Again,
see one, Chrystal.
right.
I would say if you're interested in learning more or being a part, we do pay for the summer work. So if you're interested in earning a little bit of extra money and joining us in the summer, reach out to Chrystal. Chrystal, can you put your email
Yeah.
in the chat for people? And Chrystal, she'll be able to tell you about what the summer work entails. We've been doing 4 days in a row in the summer with teachers, and we'll teach you both to use OER, but have you help make resources for your fellow state colleagues.
That's really amazing. Thank you very much for sharing all those rich resources for world language teachers. That's really, really helpful. I've never heard of the website before, but I'm really interested in looking into that after your detailed introduction of that. I think walking us step by step to navigate the website and the resources are very helpful. And I think many teachers are also very interested in the summer work. So yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, we're very looking forward to the opportunity of summer work.
Yeah, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Chrystal, I guess we'll send everybody off. Thanks for coming today. If reach out to us, we all have our pictures at the beginning and our emails. If you need anything, keep these slides and come back to us at any time.
Thank y'all.